Hello, this is Andrew with Mamillion.bike. Today's a good day for a couple reasons, and one of those reasons is that I get to replace the through axle on my Cannondale Fat CAAD1 from this abomination to this salsa axle. Not so much because it's the salsa axle, but because it's what the bike shop had. Replacing this axle from the Cannondale turned out to be quite a chore because it doesn't follow the standard length for almost every other fat bike through axle. So you can see here it is 190 millimeters, where typical fat bike through axle is 190 millimeters. One way that I thought about fixing that was to get a standard 198 axle and then just cutting more threads into it and then hacking the end off. But like a lot of times when I have a problem like this, I go to my favorite local bike shop and they suggested using a shim. I ended up cutting 8 millimeters off an end cap. It provides just the right amount of shim with the total length of this still working out, but still getting rid of all of this extra bit over there. So it should work with my Ceres bike rack. Let's get some weights real quick. First, let's start out with the Cannondale axle. It is 115.8 grams, and the replacement is 59.5, so not quite half the weight. One of the things that concerned me about this approach is the amount of surface area on this shim isn't as wide as the total amount of surface area that's on the through axle. So you're putting a lot more force on a smaller area on the fork. Now, if this was a carbon fork with an aluminum insert for the axle, I think I probably wouldn't have done this. But the Fat CAAD the fork is made out of 3 pieces of aluminum that are welded together. So there's no insert. So the risk is much lower. But if I was going to use this as a long-term solution, I might try to have a shim machined for the 15 millimeters outside that's just a little bit wider than this and fills up the entire size of the through axle, or the whole of this bit of the through axle. But I think long term I'm probably going to get a suspension fork, so this is really just a temporary solution to make it so that I can get rid of this horrible thing. Let's go put it on the bike. So here we are at the bike. I just threw the axle in here, nothing crazy to it, it just goes in. And it's quite a bit closer into the fork, and it gets tight, plenty tight. So overall, I'm really pleased with the solution. So that was some good thinking on the part of the bike shop. Oh, you can kind of see here how much space the axle isn't making with the fork. But again, since this whole piece here is a single piece of aluminum with a hole cut into it, I don't think that that's much of a problem, but I am going to monitor it and make sure that I check to make sure it's not tearing a hole through the fork. So anyway, I hope you found that useful. If you did, go ahead and like the video, subscribe to the channel. If you have any questions or comments, leave them below and I will get to them as soon as I can. Thanks.